In Operation Midnight Hammer, 125 U.S. military aircrafts working together for one coordinated mission, one terrifying target. Iran is specifically its most guarded nuclear facilities, Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. It was June 21st, 2025, around 2 a.m. In the dead of night, 7 U.S. military B-2 Spirit stealth bombers silently lifted from the shadows of the Mediterranean Sea, soaring undetected over Israel and Iraq, slipping deep into Iranian airspace. And then, missiles screamed through the sky. Explosions lit up the desert. Iran's nuclear sites shattered under the force of American firepower. The world held its breath. Because now, all eyes turned to Iran's next move. With over 24 U.S. military bases scattered across the Middle East, the question wasn't if Iran would respond, but where. Tensions crackled like static in the air. And then, 2 days later, it happened. Iran launched a counterstrike, direct, deliberate, devastating. Missiles hit Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar and Ain al-Assad Air Base in Iraq. But let's be clear, this wasn't the first time American bases came under Iranian fire. No, far from it. Iran had done it before, many times, targeting U.S. military outposts, disrupting their assets, and once even crippling an entire American warship. So now, let's go back to the shadows of history, to the 4 unforgettable incidents where Iran, with unflinching boldness, struck America, out in the open, and left a scar. January 3rd, 2020. Baghdad Airport. The night was quiet until the silence shattered. A U.S. drone strike sliced through the sky, and with it came death. Qasim Soleimani was gone, but he wasn't just another general. He was Iran's most powerful strategist, the most trusted man of Supreme Leader Khamenei, and the single most dangerous piece on the Middle East geopolitical chessboard. His death didn't just sting Iran, it stunned the entire nation. Grief gripped the streets, shock turned into rage, and Iran made a decision. This time, there would be no fiery speeches, no symbolic protests. This time, the answer would come through missiles. Iran issued a chilling threat. America has killed our commander. Now it must pay the price. And they meant every word. Just 6 days later, on January 8th, 2020, 1:20 a.m., in the stillness of the Iraqi desert night, dozens of Fateh and Qiyam ballistic missiles suddenly lit up the sky like a meteor storm. And they weren't flying blindly, they had a target. The Ain al-Assad Air Base, one of America's most critical military installations in western Iraq. Then, the base was engulfed in fire. Fuel depots exploded, aircraft shelters crumbled, command posts obliterated with pinpoint accuracy. The United States had advanced intelligence. They knew an attack was coming. Soldiers were rushed into bunkers. But even with the warning, the damage was brutal. Hangars turned to ash, runways destroyed, barracks reduced to rubble. At first, the U.S. claimed there were no casualties, but the truth couldn't stay buried for long. Soon, reports surfaced. Over 100 American soldiers had suffered traumatic brain injuries. Their nervous systems rattled. Some soldiers went completely blind. Others collapsed unconscious in sheer shock. And just when the world expected Iran to deny everything, they did the exact opposite. Iran proudly claimed responsibility. They stood before the world and declared, "This was just a warning. If America dares to go further, what comes next will be far worse." The U.S., under President Donald Trump at the time, tried to play it down. "All is well," Trump tweeted, as if the skies hadn't just rained fire over an American base. But satellite images told a different story. Soldiers' videos, before and after visuals, all of it exposed the truth. Iran hadn't targeted soldiers' living quarters. They could have, but they didn't. They said, "We didn't aim to kill. We aimed to make them feel it." And the world, stunned to witness Iran out in the open, launching a full-scale missile assault on a U.S. military base. In America, it stood there, silent, watching, absorbing the blow. But what if we told you this wasn't even the first time? Exactly 1 year earlier, Iran had already given America a taste of its fury. A calm night. In June 2019, the skies above Iran were still peaceful, almost serene. And then, an intruder. Soaring silently through the atmosphere came a high-altitude U.S. drone, the RQ-4 Global Hawk, a machine worth over $72 million, a symbol of American pride, of unmatched surveillance and technological dominance. But within just 20 seconds of entering Iranian airspace, Iran turned that symbol into a ball of fire. Yes, in just 20 seconds, that towering marvel of American engineering was reduced to flaming wreckage, crashing into the dark waters below. But this was not random. Let me tell you the history behind this. Tensions between the U.S. and Iran in 2019 were already on a knife's edge. Once again, Donald Trump was president, and this time he had imposed some of the harshest sanctions in U.S. history. Trump warned other nations, "Don't buy oil from Iran," and the world complied. Iran's oil exports dropped to nearly zero. Its economy squeezed, its lifeline suffocated. But Iran did not stay silent. In the shadows of the Persian Gulf, Iranian-backed proxies began launching covert attacks on oil tankers and vessels, retaliation without a signature. The U.S., unable to confirm Iran's exact moves, decided to take its eyes higher. They sent in a spy. Not human, not seen, not heard. They sent the RQ-4 Global Hawk, an unmanned drone built to patrol skies at 60,000 feet to monitor enemy movements and report directly to the U.S. command. But what happened next was Iran's answer to that silent intrusion. The RQ-4 Global Hawk, a marvel of U.S. naval surveillance, had just crossed into Iran's coastal boundaries. This wasn't any ordinary flyover. The drone's mission was simple but deadly. Watch everything from the skies, track every enemy movement, and report directly to U.S. Command Center. It was flying 60,000 feet above Iranian territory, a height so extreme where most conventional air defense systems can't even reach that far. But Iran had a surprise. A weapon no one expected to be that effective, that fast. Iran activated their Savam-Khordad missile system, locked onto the drone, and fired. America didn't see it coming. They never imagined Iran could target anything that high. But then, the missile hit directly. In the center above the Persian Gulf, the sky suddenly exploded into a flash of fire. A burning spectacle lit up the night, and in seconds, the $72 million drone fell from the heavens and vanished into the sea. According to Iran, the drone had crossed 15 kilometers deep into its maritime borders. The U.S., of course, denied it. They claimed the aircraft was still in international airspace. Tensions soared. President Trump threatened airstrikes in response. The world braced for impact. But then, nothing. No missiles, no counterattack, just silence. But this wasn't the first time Iran had tangled with U.S. power in the Persian Gulf. Let's turn back the clock to 1987. During the brutal Iran-Iraq War, the Persian Gulf had become a boiling pot of danger. Iran began targeting Kuwaiti oil tankers in the region. The world feared an imminent oil crisis. That's when the United States launched Operation Ernest Will, an aggressive naval mission to protect Kuwaiti oil tankers by escorting them safely through the Arabian Sea. It would become the largest U.S. naval convoy operation since World War II. But despite American protection, tensions didn't die down. So the U.S. took another step. They gave permission to reflag Kuwaiti oil tankers, which meant removing Kuwaiti flags and replacing them with the stars and stripes of America. And then came a bold declaration. Any ship flying the American flag is now American territory. Attack it, and you attack the United States. Iran tolerated it for a while, watched, waited. Then, on October 16, 1987, they struck. The ship was called MVC Isle City, a Kuwaiti oil tanker recently reflagged and now flying the American flag. Then, without warning, Iran launched a Chinese-made Silkworm missile, 3,000 kilograms of subsonic destruction, racing across the sea at deadly speed, targeting the ship with chilling precision. The missile hit the bridge, direct impact. There were no U.S. Navy warships nearby to intervene. But why? Because until now, Iran had never targeted reflagged ships. Not directly. This was different. This was historic. The very first Iranian attack on a vessel flying the American flag. 18 crew members were injured, and the ship's captain, an American citizen, suffered such devastating facial injuries, he lost both of his eyes. It wasn't just an attack on a ship. It was an assault on American confidence, on superpower dominance. And America? It responded. Within 3 days, the U.S. Navy launched a retaliation strike. They targeted and destroyed 2 Iranian oil platforms in the Persian Gulf. But these weren't regular oil stations. They were no longer producing oil. They had been repurposed, used by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps as military outposts. A clear message was being sent, and the temperature in the Persian Gulf was rising, fast. Now, the most shocking attack, how Iran brought down a U.S. Navy warship. Yes, you heard that right. During Operation Ernest Will, while the U.S. was busy protecting oil tankers in the Persian Gulf, Iran was quietly preparing something sinister, something the Americans didn't see coming. A tactic so low profile yet so deadly that it didn't just damage tankers, it crippled one of America's own warships. Here's what Iran did. Its naval forces secretly laid a deadly network of sea mines in the deep waters of the Persian Gulf. But these weren't ordinary mines floating on the surface. No, Iran was smarter than that. Because surface mines, too obvious, too easy to detect and bypass. So what did they do? They chained these mines with anchor weights and dropped them from high-speed boats into the water. Each chain measured precisely, just long enough, that the mine would float 5 meters below the surface. Now, why 5 meters? Because large ships, like oil tankers and warships, their hulls dip 10 meters or more below the surface, which meant these mines wouldn't explode on just anything. A silent killer hiding beneath the waves, they waited, patiently. On April 14, 1988, the Persian Gulf. In the middle of Operation Ernest Will, a U.S. Navy guided missile warship, the USS Samuel B. Roberts, had just arrived for deployment, sailing steadily through the dark waters, and then disaster struck. Out of nowhere, the warship hit an Iranian contact mine. A deafening explosion. The steel hull ripped apart. A 21-inch gash tore open the side of the ship. Water started flooding in, fast. The engine room submerged. 2 of the ship's turbines were destroyed on the spot. After the blast, U.S. divers were sent in to search the area. What they found was terrifying. An entire network of Iranian mines, carefully laid, expertly positioned, waiting for their next victim. And 4 days later, the U.S. struck back with full force. American warships, aircraft, and ground forces launched a counterattack. They destroyed 2 Iranian oil platforms. They also sank the Iranian warship Iris Sahand, blasting it out of the water, but victory came at a cost. In the chaos of the counteroffensive, a U.S. Marine helicopter went down. 2 American pilots lost their lives. This wasn't just a battle, it was a message, and history stands witness that ever since the fall of Iran's pro-American regime, no matter how many sanctions the U.S. imposed, no matter how tightly it tried to isolate Iran, Iran never backed down, not even against a superpower. And time after time, they made the world remember it. What do you think about this moment in history? Tell us in the comments below. And if this documentary hit you with the same shock it gave the world back then, make sure to like, share, and subscribe.